All right, we are live. Welcome everybody to Insert More Coins with author Molly Macabre and
Hey,
her
friends.
awesome book, Dark Bloom. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing very good. I am ready for Christmas. I'm ready for a break from work. What about
Yes.
you?
Yep. I Today was my first day of vacation. I have the whole week off, so I am excited. Work has
Awesome.
been bananas.
I don't doubt it. And it just gets worse traveling wise with me driving. It's just more and more people on the road, and
Oh,
I dread it.
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. What's up, Shane? How's it going?
Hi, Shane.
Oh, well, I guess we can get started. Would you like to tell everybody about your book, Dark
Yeah,
Bloom?
absolutely. It's been recently deemed a rom-zom, which I absolutely love. Um Dark Bloom is a post-apocalyptic horror. It features it's very character driven. So we really focus on our two main characters, Nick and Kate, how they meet and their adventures in this world that also involves zombies. They're called the Infected in the book. And yeah, just going along with their wild, crazy drama and also a very slow burn relationship that forms between the two of them.
Yes, I totally agree. It was really good. I'll just say my part real fast. This is one of the best books I've ever read so far, without a doubt.
Thank you.
I'm not. I absolutely love this, and I've talked about it before. At the best, I'm lucky to read 50 pages a day, at the best, and I read this whole book in 3 days. I mean, I could
That's
not
awesome.
stop. It's so good.
Those short chapters get you, and I
Oh,
didn't
it
do that.
does.
I didn't do that with that in mind. So when I was writing, okay, so when I started writing, I had just finished It by Stephen King. Mhm. You know what, 1,400 pages, something crazy, and he does like chapter one, and then it'll have section one, section two, section three, and then chapter two, section one. So that's how I wrote it. So there were like 15 or 16 chapters with all these subsections, but then I got to the end and I was like, yeah, I don't really have enough for all. Like this is doing a little too much for a much shorter book. So I decided to just make them all their own chapters. So it's 76 chapters. Sounds really
Yeah.
daunting, but some of them are
Oh,
like a page maybe.
yes. Yes. That's the best. I totally agree. That's the best part about a lot of books, and some people
Mhm.
are different with it, but it does. Like I read like you said, 1 or 2 pages, and then the chapter's over, and you're like, I need to read another couple pages, and another, and it just
Yeah.
keeps going on. And the way that you like go back and forth from like life or whatever's happening now to the past major problems we'll talk about in a bit with the oh, holy cow.
Well, I'm
So,
glad you enjoyed that.
oh yes, it was great. So, what inspired you to write the book? Just the Stephen King reading and it.
Yeah, well, I was actually listening to it on audio, and it took me 3 months.
Hey,
But I
it's
I
huge.
was yeah, I know. I listened to The Stand too, and that was about I can get through like a 7 or 8, hour book in a week, maybe 2, but yeah, 3 months for those. But yeah, I was listening to it, and, I'm not about to compare myself to Stephen King in any way, but I was listening, and I've read plenty of Stephen King before, but something about this book in particular hit me, and I was like, "Man, he's just telling a story." It's not like he's writing like Shakespeare, or and he's not doing anything like really really crazy, or like I could write a story. Like, what if I wrote a story? And I just started kind of thinking about that. I've always loved writing. I used to write a lot of poetry and short stories when I was in middle and high school, and so I was probably just ranting to my husband one day, and he was like, "Why don't you write a book?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay. Like, you could just write a book." And he was like, "Why not?" So I remember sitting in my car on my lunch break one day. I pulled up Google Docs on my phone, and I wrote the very first line of Dark Bloom, which changed from what it was. But yeah, it was definitely Stephen King was a huge inspiration for writing this book.
He is. I've never read anything of his at all, which obviously I'd said before as well. Like you're the very first horror book I've ever read,
Okay.
and it's definitely got me to be okay. I need to try a little bit more. Which next year I'm planning on doing Stephen King's 11/22/63, and then Billy
Yes.
Summers, and then Green Mile. I have all three of those.
Okay.
So if I like those, then I'll start, maybe like Salem's Lot or something. And I really want to do The Dark Tower because that sounds awesome. I don't know if
Okay.
you've read it or not.
So I have not. I've not, and it's funny because my mom has read everything ever written by Stephen King
Oh, wow.
except the Dark Tower series
Really?
because she's a very horror thriller person, and from what I understand, Dark Tower kind of goes a little more into fantasy,
Yeah.
and that's just not her thing.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so I have not. There's a short story though in one of his he often has books that have several like it's several short stories together, and I
Mhm.
can't
Yeah.
remember which one. It might have been like Everything's Eventual, or I don't think it was the Seasons one, but I have read a short story that features Roland from the Dark Tower series, but
Okay.
that's about as much as I've delved into that.
Yeah. I deep dived into booktube and had watched a few of them, like what's the exact way to read it, because it's not just like the 8 books or whatever. It's got part of the stand in it if you want to get it, and there's like 6 or 8 others as well. So I was like,
Right.
geez, this is going to be a big commitment if I want to get the full thing with it. So
Yeah, I would definitely consider The Stand as well. Man, that book. I was listening to that, and so he, of course, as Stephen King does, he goes and tells a bunch of like they're basically short stories within The Stand about how people died off because of just not being able to survive after everybody died because of this sickness. And I remember being so excited about it that I came home one day and I told my husband this whole story that Stephen King was talking about because it was so good. Just this tiny short story that I imagine was probably only a few pages within this book. It was just so dark and beautifully written, and my husband's just like,
yeah.
okay, that's cool. I'm like, but it was so good.
So you just don't
So The
understand.
Stand, yeah, The Stand is definitely, I mean, you probably got to commit several months at least of your life to
Yeah.
that book, but it was good.
Yeah, that's the one advantage I have, far as on a lot of people, is with as much as I drive. I actually just binged Wind and Truth over there
Okay.
in a week, and it's done. It was 63 hours on audio. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
but now I listened to it on 1.5 speed, so it dropped
Okay.
it down to like 40. But I
Yeah.
drive 10 hours a day. Now I'm not listening to it the whole time. There's no way.
Sure. Sure.
But
Yeah, you got to take breaks.
yeah, it and man, it was awesome. But I didn't like it as good as another book. So, so what influenced you to become an author?
um I okay, so when I started writing Dark Bloom, I had I guess I would say they were alpha readers. I had like a group of people that I would literally send out chapters to at a time. Like the whole book wasn't even written. It was just like, here's chapter 3, here's chapter 4. And they were so encouraging, and they were like, you should get this published. And I was like, yeah, I don't know anything about that. But once it sort of all came together, became a final product. I just wanted to do something with it. Ultimately, I thought if if my own story helped me in a way, I just thought maybe it could help somebody else, which sounds really weird to say about like a really dark horror story, but it was very much a really nice escape for me in some really bad times. So, and a couple people have picked that out as far as the themes of healing within such a dark story. So, if it helps somebody, that's definitely the goal there.
Yeah. What's going on, Anna? So I just finished the audiobook, and it was awesome and so suspenseful. I agree. I've not gotten to listen to it, but I'm sure it's really good as well. I mean, The book's amazing. So
Yeah, the narrator, Joe James, he did such a great job. Just phenomenal.
some other character, little Rowdy and Molly. What's
Hello.
going on? So, what was your like process of going through on writing the book? Did you have like was different? Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Process, I really didn't know what I was doing. I wrote Dark Bloom chronologically. So there was no, I mean, I added and changed some things afterward, but I wrote it in time order. Pretty much I would come home from like a 10 to 12 hour work shift, do the family thing, dinner, put the kids to bed, get everything set up for the next day, make lunches, snacks, whatever needed to be done. Sit down at my computer, probably about the time I should be going to bed, and I would just put on music and write until I couldn't keep my eyes open anymore.
Heck yeah. So this definitely not Molly's husband here. I've heard rumors that he is a very good looking man. I mean, I could be wrong, but that's what I've heard. Would that be true? Would you even know, being that it's not your husband?
Oh, I would definitely not know, but he sounds like he could be pretty handsome.
There you go. Okay. Epic audiobook. Are you up? That's cool. 10 out of 10, beautiful man. Heck yeah. So what would you say your favorite character is in the book?
Nick's definitely my favorite character.
Okay. I actually I think I'm gonna go with Kate
Yeah.
just because of everything that she had to go. I mean, don't get me wrong, Nick was with all the PTSD stuff and all that, but my goodness, reading everything that you put her through because you wrote it, it was so awful. I was trying to tell my wife, like her and my daughter watch a lot of these live stream or watch this whenever like I'm up here recording and they'll sit down and watch it. And I was like, you don't need to have them watch this. It's like,
Right.
well, I'm sure we're going to talk about some stuff that they do not need to hear.
Yeah, I've
Yeah,
had people be like, "Are you going to let your kids read your book?" And I'm like, "When they're 18, they can read it."
exactly. No way. You never know. Oh
uh,
yeah, she whenever we were that's what we're trying to tell her was like, okay, you can't watch this one, and was like, but that's not fair, why? Well then daddy shouldn't be reading that. And it's like, well, I'm an adult. It's
I'm
okay.
an adult. Yeah.
You're not quite there yet.
Yeah. Kate's character is really great, and she might become my favorite in book 2. So I'm writing a second book. It's going to be a duology. So the book that I'm writing now will be the end of the Dark Bloom story, and she might have stolen my heart more in that one.
Yeah.
It kind of does a flip-flop where like Kate really gets into her own. I don't want to say too much, but Nick I put him through a lot in this next book, and I'm sorry.
Really?
Yeah, dude, he is just really struggling. So Kate was very much based off of my own self. I've told people before, in the most artistic way possible, Dark Bloom is sort of like an autobiography. I didn't obviously live quite the same lives as Nick and Kate, but a lot of myself is put into them, and Kate is very much a fictional version of myself. And I think that's maybe why I like Nick a little bit more, because it's like, okay, like it's just too close to everything I've been through. So
Yeah.
I'm like, Nick's super cool. I love putting him through some really crazy situations and just seeing how he's going to react and how he's going to, just fight like hell for Kate and for everything that they've worked so hard towards.
Yeah. How did you come up with the I guess disease or to turn them into zombies, I guess you'd say?
So I knew I wanted to do a post-apocalyptic story with zombies, but I didn't necessarily need to explain I didn't want to explain the science part of it, but I wanted to know in my head, at least I wanted to have a basis for it. So I started Googling one day, like, diseases are zombie-like, and I came across the Kuru disease, which is a really, really uncommon disease. I think it was mostly found in like Africa, where there was a group of people who often celebrated the dead by eating their remains, often which would often include brain and spine matter. So the Kuru disease is a prion protein disease, which, if you know what the mad cow disease is, they're in the
Yeah.
same family.
Okay.
So you eat those bits of brain or spine, you now have contaminated proteins. It affects the body first. Once it passes through the blood-brain barrier, then you start to get these psychological symptoms. And one of those symptoms that was listed was uncontrollable outbursts, such as laughing. And I was like, oh gosh.
That would be horrible.
Yeah, I was like, this is perfect. So I just took
Yeah.
that and ran with it.
So is that kind of how you like? Did it say anything about like children doing that more than adults, or
It
is that
didn't.
like what you put in? Was
Yeah, I just was like, children can be so creepy anyway. So
yeah,
let's just make them even creepier. And I liked the idea of, younger. This is not any based on anything actually scientific, but I liked the idea of, like younger bodies, younger proteins, being able to kind of hold on to more of their cognitive function, even though they're undergoing the disease. So giving them the ability to speak, the ability to be kind of tricksters in that way was kind of a good spin on things, in my
yeah.
opinion.
That's interesting. Like I remember, like whenever was reading it, and then you get to the one part where you meet the first child, where she's I guess crying for her mom, and then they walk up to the girl, and that's like that is the creepiest thing you could possibly
Oh
do.
my
If
gosh.
they really start laughing at them, holy cow!
Yeah,
And
I
then
just had this perfect vision of like this girl in like this white dress and in this, so obviously I live in Virginia. We have a lot of, I'm sure there's abandoned buildings everywhere, but like that's one of my mom and I's like hobbies is just checking out. There's a lot of abandoned buildings and you'll find them freaking everywhere. And just coming up to this building that's pretty much been wasted away by the environment. And then there's just this little girl standing in there and she's crying. And of course, that tugs at Kate's heartstrings. And she's like, I got to do something. And Nick's like, I don't think we should.
yeah,
But he's like, I'm not going to fight you on it.
yeah.
So, yeah.
It was almost like he was always letting her, "You can try. I
Yeah,
already know this is gonna be
exactly.
bad.
He's like, all
Go
right,
ahead."
well, you can try. I'll be here with machete when things
Yeah,
get bad.
exactly, exactly. Man, I the where they, I guess you'd say, meet and he saves her, that about got me. I mean, that was awful what the other man was gonna do to her.
Hmm.
I mean, it was golly. There's so much I wanna say.
Yeah.
I try not to spoil anything yet. We may talk about it at the end if that's okay.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
so alright, so you had said that the audiobook, it just got released, didn't it? A couple
Yes, what
weeks
is
ago?
today? Yeah, like 5 days ago. Yep. That was a long process, but I'm I'm glad it's out in the world finally.
Uh-huh. Some other character talking about it in
Oh, okay.
'93.
Very cool. Yeah, it's a very obscure
Yeah.
disease, so I
I
was
I
glad I
re
came across it.
yeah, I remember them like mad cow disease, but
Mhm.
not this.
Right.
But yeah, definitely a creepy moment. Makes me think of the scene from 30 Days of Night, but creepier. I've not watched that because I do not watch horror movies anymore. I am a big chicken. I had, I might have said this before, but whenever I was younger, I was golly 10-ish, I guess, and my brother was 5, 4 or 5, because we're like 6 years apart. But my stepmom would always sit us down. She loved horror movies, like that was her thing. And we'd have to sit there and we'd watch Jason and Freddy and Hellraiser and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all that, and that terrified me. And then every so often, she'd sneak out while we're watching, of course, I'm hiding behind stuff, and she'd sneak out and go around, and she'd get a butcher knife, put ketchup on it, and start knocking and crawling and beating at the window with
Oh
it,
my gosh.
and it scared us to death.
Yeah, I can
And from then
imagine.
on, yeah, it was terrible.
That's so funny.
So, yeah, one of the last horror movies I'd ever went and seen before I was finally, "I am done with this," was, like, The Ring or Saw.
Oh,
I can't remember which one, and The Ring creeped me out when that
The
girl crawled
Ring
through. Yes,
was
crawling through,
terrifying.
it's like, "You're crazy. Who
Oh
wants
my
to watch
gosh.
this?"
Yeah. Saw
Yeah.
was brilliant. I like that's just one of the movies I will never forget the way I felt when it was over. Just mind-blowing moment.
When the dude stands up,
Yes,
it's like,
so good.
"What?"
I made my kids watch that. I really didn't have any intention of having my youngest watch it, but she just ended up. But my 10-year-old, she likes horror. She's seen, like the Jasons and It and everything. And I made her watch it because I was like, look, dude, you're gonna be like thrown by this. And like the movie ends and I'm getting all these nostalgic feelings of the first time I watched it. And she's just looking at me and she's like, that was it. And I'm like,
What's
what? I know. I'm like, seriously, dude? No, that's amazing. It's brilliant. It's genius. Like, what?
Yeah,
Were you watching the same movie as me? It was funny.
man, I remember that so vividly, going through that whole movie, and then the very end, the guy just, "It's no big deal, like, you just cut your leg off, and
Yes.
too bad for you."
Yes. So good.
And I think I watched the first 2 or 3 of those. I can't remember. The last one I remember is whenever I think it was the girl that had all the shotguns at her
Mm-hmm.
face or whatever. I remember that, but I don't remember which one that was. That was the last one I remember watching though. So is it the
Yeah.
2, 3? I don't remember.
I don't remember. We've had
Oh,
plans, so many plans of like watching all of them at one point because we went through all of the Halloweens, we went through all of the Friday the 13th. Like we'll pick series, but we don't have time to watch TV a lot.
yeah.
So we've had plans to watch all the Saws and just haven't gotten there, unfortunately. But the first one,
Well, I
incredible.
mean, have they made like 10 of those or something? I
Yes,
think, I
there
mean, it's so many.
exactly. Yeah,
Um,
there's 10.
and they even didn't they change the name of it? The one that had, Chris Rock,
Oh, I think there's one
the
called
Jigsaw?
Jigsaw, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I can keep up halfway with them. I just can't watch them. Like,
Yeah.
that's not for
Same,
me. So, it's like
same.
The Conjuring and all that stuff. It's like, no. I don't like jump scares or nothing like that. I'm a chicken, I'm telling you. So, like your book is the scariest thing I've listened to, watched, read in years.
I feel like it's a good I don't want to say like intro to horror. If you can handle dark subjects, I feel like it still has like a notion of healing and you get it's not just like splatterpunk or the whole time, which nothing wrong with splatterpunk. I'm just saying my book's not it. So I feel like, I've had several people say that they're not into horror. Horror's not really their thing, but they did enjoy it. So I think it is a good place to be, even
Yeah,
if horror isn't your top genre.
yeah. I'd seen like one of your, not to change anything, but like one of your references in here is that the music wise, when you listed Taking Back Sunday, I
Mm-hmm.
remember them so vividly whenever I was in high school and right after. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
that I love that band.
Yes.
It's so
They
good.
are really good. Not live anymore, unfortunately, because
Mhm.
I don't know if you've seen any videos of them
I have
live.
not. No.
Oh, yeah. Just if you ever get a chance. Their lead singer, I think he's going through a lot of things. Um,
Uh,
I think he drinks a lot,
mm,
but yeah, that's such an incredible. And I was really sad to see that because I was like, man, I'd love to catch them live if they're going to be around in the area. And then I started seeing probably TikToks of them in concert, and I was like, ugh,
mm,
maybe not, or maybe with a lot of drinks first. But
yeah.
yeah, super great band. I loved them so much in high school.
Didn't you just get to give your book to one of the singers from a band?
Yes. Yeah, so Sunday we went and saw I'm wearing my Under Oath shirt. We
Oh,
went and saw Under
okay.
Oath.
Okay.
Yeah, and I got to meet Spencer Chamberlain and give him my book, and it was, like, the best night of my life.
Heck yeah. How'd you manage to meet him?
Oh, I paid for the meet and greet, the VIP meet and
Oh,
greet.
okay, okay.
Yeah, so you like line up like everybody goes and takes their individual photo with the band, and then once everybody's taken their pictures, the band is just kind of hanging out, on the floor, like where the pit is, and then you just go up there. Like they were all kind of spaced out. You stand in line for whatever band member you want to talk to, and so we stood in line, talked to Spencer, and then I got my little laminate signed by all the band members.
That's awesome. I've never like I had a friend in high school, which we grew up together, and she ended up being a singer, but um that she's the only, I guess you'd say, meet and greet that I ever got to go to at one of her concerts. I mean,
Yeah.
she performed with like which we don't listen to hard rock or metal. I mean, I used to, but she's more country-ish,
Hmm.
and she performed with like Martina McBride that night and
Oh
all that,
wow.
which I'm sure most people know who Martina McBride is, or
Yeah,
at least back in the
absolutely.
day. But yeah, it was awesome. She's really good too. But
That's awesome.
yeah, well, yeah, I remember back whenever I was younger, listening to like Corn. I loved Corn.
Yes.
Slipknot. I did listen to a little of them, and then what was it? What's the German band that's so big?
Rammstein?
Yes, that's a
Yeah.
Du Hast was the song. I remember that.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
I remember that. But yeah, man, I remember I was in school in class when one of my buddies let me listen the first time to Corn, Freak on a Leash, and I was like, this is the craziest, wildest, best song I might have ever heard.
Yes, it's such a moment. When I was in middle school, I was dating a guy who was like, like wore all black, and he was like, "Yeah, by the way, this is AFI and Mudvayne," and
Oh, yes.
I was like, "This is gonna become my entire personality now."
Yep. Whenever I was 16, I had this, which I'm really tall. I'm 6'3", and I had for my 16th birthday, I ended up getting a four-cylinder, five-speed S10, which you already know that's a small truck, especially for someone that's 6'3". And I proceeded to put a set of 12s in the back of it. And when I'm driving, no joke, like I'm shifting gears, it's up here, up to my chest, and my knees are touching the steering wheel. And I remember driving around town, listening to all that stuff. It was the
Yes,
best. It couldn't get any
yes,
better. All that rock, man.
yes. Those were good times for music.
Yeah,
It
yeah. What
really
do they say?
was.
Yeah, they just don't do it like they used to.
They sure don't.
So, I absolutely, man, I loved that. So, can you take me through the process of you releasing a book on like how you went through it, like talking to publishers and all that?
Oh, I didn't talk to publishers. I didn't query it
You just
all.
went straight up, did it all yourself.
I did. To be honest, like people often will say, like, why did you choose self-publishing? Mostly because I had no idea, like, what the other process was like. The only, like, literally everything I know about it is from seeing what authors say about it on Twitter. Um, but I am glad that I went the route that I did. Because I mean, in the future, I might try my hand at maybe having it trad pub or having something trad published. But Dark Bloom is really just like the story of my soul. I love it.
That's right,
I
Ryan.
love it. um, I would not want anything changed, you know.
No,
Um, and also I really like that I don't have due dates or timelines or anything I have to go by because I'm just so busy all the time between work and family and like trying to maintain my household. So I really like that I love to write. I know I'll do it when I can. So just going on my own timeline is just works for me.
yeah, okay. Like eventually, like we, do you know the process of like how to get a hold of like publishers and all that? Like, is that you're just kind of like just look at it?
Vaguely, I know, I guess coming up with I've seen like query letters about like, hey, this is what my book's about, and then sending them to agents that work at traditional publishing companies. And then I guess they read it over and they're like, maybe or yes, or but I'm not very like literally this is
Yeah,
all knowledge I've gained from reading what authors have said on Twitter. So
yeah.
I've not looked into that
Okay,
whatsoever.
that's cool. So after book two, what's next after that? Like, are you gonna like try a whole new genre, or you gonna stay with horror? Or
I will probably always write something in the realm of dark.
okay,
Um, I have an idea for something paranormal that I'd like to try out. I really want to write a ghost story, or just that
be cool.
sounds really fun.
Yeah.
Um, I have about a third of another project written that I don't know if it'll go anywhere, but it was really fun to write and it's been really fun to work on. That's more of like a hacker stalker. It's a
Ooh,
little bit more romancy than Dark
yeah,
Bloom is, which I guess isn't saying too much because we don't get too much into like really mushy or really spicy.
yeah.
But yeah, I got this huge inspiration for this work probably about 6 months ago. I have some of it written. I've been really focusing on Dark Bloom 2, or Too Dark to Bloom, as some might say.
Good luck to Blue.
um, so I've been really focusing hard on that because I mean we're almost my first draft is almost done. I'm about
Okay.
55,000 words in, so just some connecting pieces. So I really want to get that out, especially the more things that happen in the world of Dark Bloom, like the audiobook coming out. I listened to that whole thing in 2 days, and then just the more things that happen, the more I'm in that mindset of the Dark Bloom world. So I definitely
Soon to bloom.
I love it. So yeah, I'm gonna focus on that, but yeah, I'm definitely gonna stay in the realm of dark, but I don't know that it'll always necessarily be horror. Maybe thriller, maybe some dark romance. We'll see. We'll see.
So no fairies or fae, or unless you go like
No,
dark.
right.
And
I
that
mean,
means it could be more fantasy, I guess.
I'm not opposed to it at all
Yeah,
because I love me some good fantasy books. I just that's not where my brain is. That's not
yeah,
what my forte is.
yeah. Well, that's cool. That sounds good to me. I mean, I'm very interested in anything you write now after reading this for sure.
Thank you.
Well, where or how, I guess I should say, how did you get this cover or make it?
Oh gosh.
Um,
So that cover was done by Hampton Lamoureux of TS95 Studios. I was looking through, so I had an author friend send me a list of some really incredible artists, but they were either not my vibe or not my price range. So I just started looking around on the internet and I found this stupid blog of like the 10 best cover artists. It's not stupid, but I just mean it was like very, I guess, markety, preachy kind of blog about these cover artists. And I went through a whole bunch of them. And again, either not my vibe or not in my price range. I landed on his website and started looking through his covers. They were really good. And then we spent several months working back and forth on that cover. And he hit me with that. And I was like, yes, this is the one.
that's awesome because it's so I mean, it almost looks like he just like drew it on there. I mean, it
No,
looks
he
really good, but
yeah, he does stock photo manipulation, which
mhm,
that was really cool too. Because when I first came to him, I had no idea. I had no idea what I wanted as as a cover for this book. I just told
yeah,
him what it was about, and he came up with a few things at first. It was the same background, but it had people on there,
mhm,
which was fine, but to me it looked like a YA book, kind of young adult, and I was like, I don't want somebody picking this book up and then being like, "Oh my gosh, now I'm scarred for life." Um so I was like, you know what? Let's scrap the people and let's just go object based. Like, what if we just throw a skull and a zombie hand on there? And working with stock photos, I was able to actually go through the site he uses and like pick some things out, either for him to use directly or as an example. Like, hey, I like this. This is cool. And he put all that together, and it was just incredible.
yeah, it looks amazing. Now, did I see that is the cover up for an award
It's yeah on the Indie Ink
on that
Awards. Yeah,
indie? Yeah, okay, that's awesome. Ryan Storm.
everybody's got a fan club in here tonight.
Uh-huh. So, are you gonna be able to use him again for your second book, or are you going to
Yep.
go? Okay,
Yep. I've already paid him for my cover for my second book. He is fantastic and polite and professional and really easy to work with as far as if you need revisions or if you want something else. But he is very slow to respond to me. And that's okay. He's a busy guy. So that's why I'm really excited. Like, I don't even have my book done yet, and he's all paid up and he's working on it. And so that way, when like I'll probably have it long before I'm ready for it, which when I was working on Dark Bloom, it was like I had everything done. All I needed was him to come through with my cover and then I could release. So it was like I was very impatient for that, but it all worked out. So yeah, I'm just excited that he's good to go. We've already talked about what the design's going to be. I am really excited because I know it's going to be epic. It might even be more epic than Dark Bloom's cover.
Heck yeah. That's really cool. Like, are you going to go with, not to tell me anything about it, but like, are you going to try to stay something like this with like no people on it or?
Yeah, it'll be
okay.
pretty similar.
Okay. All right. Well, we're what, 35 minutes in? Can we talk a little spoilers now? You think that'd be all right?
Yeah,
As long
absolutely.
as everybody else, hopefully no one cares. All right.
We're gonna do spoilers, guys. Jump
Yeah.
out, or actually don't jump out. Keep the views. Just mute the site
There you
and go eat dinner or do your laundry.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Why in the world did you treat Kate so terrible?
I was, oh man, in order to build the type of relationship that Nick and Kate had, I needed her to be not interested in a relationship at all, if that makes sense, because I wanted so much value in this relationship, and I wanted basically him to prove her wrong completely, because of course she comes in thinking that everybody wants one thing. There's nobody that actually would value her as a person. She's just simply trying to survive. So I had to make her go through a lot of terrible things to get there, unfortunately.
Yeah. I know whenever I was reading through it and every part where the backstory of her and what her horrible ex-boyfriend put her through, I nearly, like, my mouth was open reading it. I was like, oh my gosh, that scared me worse than the zombies did on reading that. I mean, it really did. Like, I was like, I couldn't imagine somebody having to go through something that terrible
Right.
that she did. And whew, it was awful.
Yeah.
And then Nick dealing with PTSD and then having problems with his was his girlfriend.
Yeah.
Okay, or fiance, whatever. But yeah, and then him having the problems with her whenever he come back from the war, and then losing his best friend there. Like, that was terrible. I couldn't imagine that neither. Like, I know I have some family members that are in the army and stuff, and they haven't never talked anything about anything like that. So, but I couldn't imagine what it would be like.
Yeah. I obviously didn't serve. I don't know what that feels like. My husband did serve, and just secondhand, I see some of what he deals with. I don't get to see inside of his head, of course. I didn't try to really fabricate so much what I thought Nick would feel. I just sort of I like, this sounds weird, but I gave Nick my depression in order to explain how he felt. I just sort of took experiences from myself and passed them on to him in a way, and that's how I kind of went into that mind frame of what he was feeling. But I do know, just being around service members and knowing what they've gone through, I know that it's very isolating, and they can come home feeling very purposeless, and and depression in itself, whether you served, whether you didn't, it can just make you drive people away, not on purpose, but because you just don't know what to do. You don't know how to be helpful to somebody else when you can't be helpful to yourself.
Yeah. Who needs therapy when you have a word processor? Hashtag twin.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. So, whenever you're like writing Kate, and trying to think of stuff like that. How was the process of like coming up with some of this stuff? Like, say, for instance, whenever he put her in the cage, to keep her and constantly, texting her is like, you're cheating on me, and it just like progressively got worse.
Mhm.
Like, how did you come up with some of that stuff, or is that just like experience wise and
Yeah, so the very like controlling, possessive, accusatory, that was just experience, something I
yeah,
experienced with an ex many, many, many years ago. When I was in high school, I dealt with a lot of very toxic situations. And I was in a lot of situations where I felt very unsafe. Um, and so Nick and Kate have lived in my head for a long time, long before I ever thought about putting them into a story. They pretty much served as a delusion in my head where I could escape from during a time when I couldn't actually escape. And I don't mean like I was not in a cage, I was just in a relationship that I couldn't get out of.
yeah,
So it's very symbolic to my own life in a way. um, so I would just often dissociate and live in this little fantasy world where there were people like Nick and Kate, and of course it couldn't be happy go lucky because that's not really how I felt at the time.
yeah,
So I kind of took a dark situation and built something beautiful out of it, and escapism is essentially how Nick and
yeah.
Kate were born probably 15 years ago in my head.
Okay. Did you like being that your husband served and stuff? Did you talk to him about any like some of the stuff on? Hey, is this kind of a way like stuff happens, like far as like being like overseas or anything?
I
Yeah,
asked him questions, not so much about like personal feelings or experiences, but I did
yeah,
ask him questions like, hey, would two Marines live together like in on base housing?
yeah.
Or like how were things set up overseas as far as like living quarters? And yes, I did very much ask him questions to help me with writing some of
Yeah.
that.
That's cool. I'm sure that helps out too, especially if you've been thinking about it for a while and even before, and yeah, definitely getting references never hurts.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, um, so whenever like another part in it, whenever they go and meet, I guess you'd say the group that's inside the what's it called?
The
Where all the
junkyard.
junkyard. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. The what was the girl that was hitting on him? What was her name? I can't remember.
Julia.
Julia. Yes, she looked sounded. Oh, to me, it felt like she was like a super like trying to hide everything, backstabber, like wouldn't really flaunt it out in front of anybody. But whenever they were at the campfire
Hmm.
and she was really hitting on him, I was like, oh, please, please do not do this. And then, of course, she put it to where Kate's like listening. I'm like, oh, this is going to be awful. And then he turned her down. I was like, yes, that's my guy.
Yeah.
So, are you okay? So, where the book ends and they're trying to get to the one place, and obviously things change a little. Are they going to go on another, like, I guess you'd say not really an adventure, but another journey to somewhere else to try to what's the oh geez, where she saves him, with what's the stuff called? I'm blank now.
Are you talking about like the cure essentially, I guess?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Are they
Yeah.
gonna go out and try to spread it everywhere to cure everything, or
So here's the thing.
yeah,
So many people that have read this are like, okay, cool, like you've got it all set up, like they're gonna go try and save the world with this. Like
yeah,
they have the answer. And I think that's what I very much intended to do when I started writing the second book. Because the goal, like the goal that was in the background the whole time is what they were trying to get to this military base because they had
yeah,
heard that there was a refuge there. They never made it in the first book. So that is going to be part of the goal in the next book. Um, they I don't want to say too much, but
I'm
it,
sorry.
No. You're fine. I wanna give information to excite and entice, but I don't want to give anything away. The cure is going to be another one of those background things that just doesn't end up being um the main focus at all, because essentially they want to get to a place where they know, if they bring somebody back, they want them to have somewhere to be. They don't just want to be like, good luck, like you've lost everyone you know and love, and now you're cured, and that's just not
Yeah.
feasible. So they're trying to think of the best way to do this, and they want to get to this military base, because if that's a fortress, then that would be a great place to do this. They can bring, or they can cure somebody, bring them back there. There's already an establishment of people ready to give them food and help them kind of reintegrate into society. So that is very much the goal. But things just really get really messed up, and
Yeah.
they're just that doesn't become the focus.
Yeah. I thought that was really, really cool at the end whenever you were talking about, or they were, about how if you start bringing people back, you're not on, you don't know what that person was before they turned into a zombie. So you might be bringing back murderers and killers and just
Hmm.
awful, awful people, but you have no idea. I mean, it could be
Yeah.
someone that's great. I mean, I was like, that is really interesting right there. I liked that.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely. I mean, that's what something I would think about. It's like, okay, well, I can bring this person
Yeah.
back, and like that's obviously what the good portion of our brain tells us, that you have to save everyone in humankind, because that's what we. But then your population's already dropped. You're already fighting the fact that there's no laws. There's no nothing that. There's no consequences for your actions, essentially, other than your own moral safeguards. So if you start bringing people back, and then they're like, cool, I'm gonna take all your stuff now, like, how do
Yeah.
you know?
That is very true. That you bring someone back and they're awful. No, I mean, for one, if you let them go, who knows what they'll end up coming back and having or doing to you.
Right.
What do we got? What a hopeful setup for an emotional damage. Emotional damage.
Yes, lots. We like emotional damage in Dark Bloom.
Yes, yes. And I'm sure there's plenty more in the second one.
Oh, it gets so much worse.
Is it gonna be like around the same page count wise, or are we going way bigger or
I would like to shoot for a little bit bigger, but not by much.
yeah.
So Dark Bloom was 68,000 and some change as far as
Mm,
word count, which ended up being almost 300 pages.
mm,
I'm sitting at 55,000 with this, and I just have all these scenes that I need to like connect and make sense. Some integrating scenes, but all of the meat of it is all there.
yeah,
So I'm pretty excited about that.
yeah. Do you already have the ending? Like you know what you're doing with it?
It's written.
It's done. Okay. That's good. Do you
Yeah.
are you like a, just write a few things and just go at it, or do you have like a huge step-by-step plan on how you write books?
Um, with this, I actually, so what happened was somebody was like, "Oh, you could totally write a sequel to Dark Bloom," and I was like, "I'm not writing another book. Like, I don't know what else. I don't have anything else to write about." But that planted a seed in my head, and then I made this very angsty list called "If I Write a Sequel," and "if" was underlined like really harshly, and I started writing down scenes like what could happen. Um, so I did have a little bit more of a plan of an idea, but it was just a very like, Kate picks a flower, and then, Kate doesn't pick any flowers, but it's just an example. And then I would
Yeah.
go and write it. And of course, like like writing does, I would start with that, but then this would happen, and then, oh no, now this has changed, and Nick's done killed somebody else, and it's just it all goes off the rails, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I'm very, very excited to see where it definitely goes from here. Or as far as like, so are you hoping to have it out 2025, or are we looking 2026? Like, are you just not in a hurry? When it's done, it's done?
I would like to have it 2025. I'm thinking I should have my rough draft done by the beginning of next year. My editor is pretty quick, so he'll get it back to me quickly, but I'm going to send it back to him again. So once I apply all of his edits, I'm going to send it back to him a second time. But again, he's really quick, and then it'll be ready essentially. Of course, like throw in several rounds of my own revisions, but I get through those at a decent pace. So I would maybe end of 2025.
Okay. Obviously, the best time would probably be, Octoberish.
Yeah, that would be a goal. But again, I'm not going to make
Yeah.
any promises because life
Oh,
is
yeah.
wild and
Yeah.
you just never know.
Yeah, absolutely. Grimfell?
Hi, Grim.
Hello? Hello? Oh. Well, let's see here. What other questions? So, obviously, I just fixed to ask, are you working on any other projects? You were finishing up book 2. So, what have you been reading here lately?
What have I been
Random.
reading? Let's see. What did I finish last? I just finished Trapped Awakening by Benjamin Roberts. That was really cool. That was really cool. That was like a wild roller coaster tale about lucid dreaming, and that took me for a lot of loops. My last audio was Dark by Kat Kinney. That was like a paranormal romance, shifter romance. That was really cool too. That was a lot of fun. Just I'm a slow reader, especially with paperbacks. Audio I can get through pretty quick, but I kind of have to pause in between when I don't have any credits.
The worst.
I know. So like I think I listened to a book in like a week, and then that leaves me with like 4 weeks of nothing. I mean, I listen to music. I listen to a lot of music.
Yeah.
I've read Sledge recently. That was a freaking blast. Death Cult by Janelle. I can't. Yes, Sledge.
Yep.
I loved it.
Done.
And that one is another one that gets you with the short chapters, because I would lay down in bed and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to read one chapter and then I'm going to go to bed. And the chapter's 2 pages. And I'm like, well, obviously I can do 6 more of these. And it was so good, though. I'm definitely a very different tone than anything I've ever read. And I absolutely loved it.
Yes. Sledge is the only book, I bet you I've laughed out loud 15 times reading this thing. It is so good. Like I remember, I mean, I was born in the 80s, so watching all of like Arnold movies and Stallone and Jean-Claude Van Damme and all that. I loved those. And this is so much like, it reminds me so much like Arnold and how much bigger he was. He couldn't be hurt. It is it's so funny.
It's good. He's like, cute. I'm like, oh my gosh.
It don't matter what it is. Like, he was getting shot up. I just finished one of the chapters where I think he went to one of this building, and there was like 6 armed guards outside, and he's holding 2 guys that he's done killed, or well, one of them he's done killed, the other one he's running with. It's like, dude, that's not possible, but I love it so much.
Yes, I loved it. I was like, this dude is a beast.
Yes, and I really liked how Nick wrote out like the exact weapons that were getting used, and like even the flashlight. Look, there's a reference to a Olight Warrior X. It's a flashlight. I don't know if you know anything about them. I collect some of those, and I have several. I have the which some people might know, but an X9 or an X9R Olight, and it is no joke. It's 22,000 lumens. I think this flashlight is. I mean, it's massive, and I'm like that big around. Every bit of 15, 16 inches long. It's huge.
Yeah.
If you turn it on, like in a room, it's literally like the light is on. It's so bright.
That's wild.
And so I'm excited because I'm gonna talk to him here in a few weeks, and I want to ask him if he's got a collection.
Yeah. He made that work really well, because I have read books that are like, they've got the this, that, and this rifle with the this, that, and this scope, and I'm like, it becomes there's a way to do it where it's way too much, and it takes away from the story because you're
Mhm.
reading 7 lines of what the scope is, and I'm like, I don't care, I just want to get. But the
Yeah.
way he puts it in there, it's enough description without being over descriptive, but you have an idea of what you're looking at, what Sledge is working with, what's going on. So yeah,
Yeah.
he did such an incredible job with
Yeah.
everything in that book.
Yeah. Him going like even like what you said, like just you're okay. He's getting shot at with this rifle. So if you know anything about this rifle, that all you need is a description, you know it, and he moves on. And I
Yes,
really liked that.
yes,
And
yes,
then him and his sledgehammer when he fought one of the guys in a dark room and made one, but then
yes.
tossed the guy over and he landed on the
Yeah,
oh my lord. That was
that
so
was
funny.
brutal.
It was.
Yes.
So we got Alex. Howdy, howdy. What a save. Yes, I think I lost it there and then randomly had some stuff come back.
No, they're talking about
Yeah.
Rocket League. They're so silly.
We okay. Okay, never mind then. Binge and Sledge right now. Excellent, excellent. I'm hoping to be done in the next 3 days. It's the plan anyways, hopefully by Tuesday. Yeah, got the sledgehammers. All right, so like I said, I'm reading Sledge, and next up is Fogbound by N.J. Alexander. I don't know if you've heard
Okay.
anything about it. That's Nick. I would say he's one of the secret scribes, but he's not. I don't think. I think he's an honorary member. That's what they said. So I think that's a fantasy book. Don't know anything
Okay.
about it, but so what?
Sometimes that's one of the most fun ways to go in is just not knowing anything about a book and just jumping right in.
That's what I do every time. I'm not like
Nice.
I don't read the backs or anything, ever. Like, if
Okay.
someone can tell me something like, "I knew yours was a horror book and it had zombies and
Right.
laughing kids." Other than that, I don't read any of it. I just give me the book.
I
That's
like that.
literally everything. So, well, I'm afraid that if I read the back and it doesn't like, someone doesn't do a good job of describing it, I'm not gonna like it. Well, if I don't
Right.
read it or at least give it a few hundred pages, it's like, what's the point, you know? And then if I end up they do a bad job and then I start reading them like, "This is amazing." You know, this would have turned me off. So I just
Right.
no.
That makes
I'll get
sense.
yeah, I'll get some halfway someone can tell me something about it, and that's all I need. I'll go. Um, but I'm new to a lot of it anyways. As you know, I'd said a while ago, I didn't start reading until January of this year. Didn't care nothing about it, hated it, and got bored of gaming and started picked up my first book, and then ended up by the end of the year, every single one of these have been bought in the past 7 months.
Holy crap, that's
Every one
amazing.
of them. Yeah.
What book did you pick up with to start off?
Okay, so we homeschool, or I say we, my wife is the teacher. We homeschool our kids, and we've been to 2 or 3 um, homeschool conventions, and I picked up, I don't even know why, just a random book from a girl. Oh, what's it called? I can't remember it. Anyways, it was Vincent in Wonderland is what it's called. So basically,
Okay.
the premise of it was Vincent Van Gogh, when he was a kid, meets up with Alice in Wonderland, but it's just Alice before Wonderland existed, and they got sucked in from 2 different worlds, basically. Vincent was in our normal, but just back in the day when he was a kid, and
Right.
Alice was wherever, and they both got brought together in this one fantasy world that was before Wonderland, and they go on an adventure to try to figure out how to escape it and all that. Just a random book. It's a YA book, and I liked it, and ended up going to. I read something else. I don't remember what it was, and then I got on YouTube and started watching a whole bunch of BookTube stuff. And someone was like, "Brandon Sanderson is a really good fantasy author. If you're ever interested, you know, check it out." And I went before because I didn't want to start the Cosmere because it's so dang big. I mean, it's like
Okay.
20 books. So I ended up getting Steelheart, which is one of his YA books, and it's basically have you seen The Boys? I'm not sure you've heard of it. The superheroes that are awful.
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, I know what you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Okay, so this is like The Boys, but a YA version. The
Okay.
superheroes are the worst of the worst. Obviously they're gonna do all the crazy stuff that's in The Boys, but it was it was really good. Like I remember reading the prologue, which he's really good at, was unbelievable. Like
That's
it
really
had me
cool.
hooked. So yeah, I went from there and then just proceeded along and then started YouTube in the end of August. So it's been fun.
That's awesome.
What games did you play, Rowdy? From Alex. Literally about everything. Right now, I only play like Call of Duty and college football. So I told Molly, but before that, I loved like RPGs, like geez, Mass Effect and some of the Witcher 3, of course, all the heavy hitters, basically. Bioshock blew my mind. I don't know if you ever played it. Do you remember it?
No.
Okay,
I have seen plenty about it, but
okay.
never played.
The ending, that's the first time I think my mind's ever been blown in a video game. Like, all you need to remember is, "Would you kindly?" And if you ever played it, you'll know the reference.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, we
and
talked about that. I wanna play a lot of games, but I just don't have the time to follow a storyline and play for, even 1 or 2 hours a day on the regular because work, kids, life, writing, reading. I play video games here and there, but I typically play something that, round base, jump in with some friends, play for a little bit, and then don't think about it for like a week or so.
yeah, yeah, that's if I had the time, I would love to get to play more of,
Yeah.
like those. BioShock Infinite, I have not played, but I heard it's very good. So, well, let's see. I've only got like one or two other questions for you. So, all right, what is your favorite book you've ever read, if you have one?
The problem is I have two, and
Right?
I never know. Well, since we already talked about It by Stephen King, I will say that my favorite book is American Psycho by Bret Easton Ellis.
Oh, okay. I've seen the movie. I don't remember much
Yes.
about it, but I remember watching the movie.
The book, that's one of I was thinking about this the other day because they're talking about doing a remake of the movie, and I want to hate it, but I'll try to keep an open mind. I was thinking about this. The movie is one of very few movies that is a remake of a book that actually, in my opinion at least, does it really good justice. It sticks to the theme and the tone. It sticks to the events. It sticks to the dialogue. Obviously, the book is very graphic, so of course they had to
Okay.
take that out. Like, I don't recommend that book lightly. If people ask me for a book recommendation, I don't bring that one up because it is difficult to read. Um, but it's definitely the movie does a really good job of capturing the tones of that, and I like the movie. I love the book though. The book is just it's one of those ones that's just so different than anything I've ever read, and it's just incredible.
Okay. What do we have here? I think sticking to the themes and tone and major events is how you get a good adaptation. I would agree with that very much. No, now, is it Christian Bale? Was he the
Yes.
okay, okay. I remember, like, you can even see, like, find memes and stuff with him
Oh
on
yeah.
some of them. So, as I said, I remember that back years and years ago, but I've obviously never read it. So, all right, I guess the last thing I have would be, what book would you recommend me to read? If it could be
Mm.
besides American Psycho, of course.
No, I don't.
I'm not
I
ready
don't
for
recommend.
that.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, let me go through my bank of books that I've read. What book would I recommend? Hmm, I would definitely recommend You're Reading Sledge. Have you read Performances of a Death Metal Bard by Rob
Yes,
Lee?
and it's
Okay. I
fantastic.
love that one so
So
much.
good. Yes.
Yes. Have you read Umbra by Amber
I
Toro?
have not, but I've been
Okay.
seeing quite a bit about it.
Yeah. That's the one I would recommend to you. I
Okay.
finished that one a couple months ago. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. It's a very fun space adventure. It does have a little bit
Yeah.
of a slow burn romance, but it's
Okay.
I mean, I would say it's even less present than Dark Bloom. It's not your main
Yeah.
focus, but it's very fun, and it definitely takes you on a lot of adventures, a lot of wild rides. It's good.
Okay.
Yep.
It was great. All right. I will definitely check that out because, like I said, I've seen um, several people mention that about how good that book
Hmm.
is.
Yeah.
And then, as far as romance stuff, I don't really. I'm cool. I'm actually fixing to start. What is it? A Court of Thorn and Roses. Is that
Okay.
right? One of the
Something like
audio book
that.
of it in like a month or two. Some
Okay.
I'm just going to read on the side to check it out. Why is it so popular?
Yeah, you know
I'm
what?
very curious.
I'm interested in what your thoughts will be because of course,
Yeah.
I see that book everywhere.
Yes.
I'm on Book Talk, so I see that book all the time. So I've not never really had the desire to read it, but I'm interested in how it is.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like I don't. It's not like I'm going out to figure I want to read like romances. That's not my thing. But
Right.
I'm very curious on why like that and there's like three or four others. All the Sarah J. Maas stuff and Akatar. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
Yes.
but sometimes it's how we find either books that we didn't think we would like, or so my curiosity led me to read Haunting Adeline, and I did not enjoy it, but it actually was the inspiration for my side project that I've been working on. So
Okay.
there's that.
Yeah. Do you have what is it John A. Douglas? Do you have him on X?
Hmm.
Did you see where he had posted and his stuff blew up about what's on like the Target shelves where it's all like romancy stuff? Did
I
you ever
didn't see
see
that.
that? That's a few weeks ago. Like I'm talking blew up. Like made videos, thousands of views. Like it's crazy, and it is so true. I literally, whenever he posts, he took a short like 10-second video, and everything in Target, I'm talking like 95% of it was all romancy books, top to bottom, all of it. And I just went to my Target like 2 days before that, and I was with my son, and I was like, let's see what books they have. They had Dungeon Crawler Carl. There was two books there of it, and maybe three books of Doom, and the rest were all romancy books, nothing else. And like Sarah J. Moss had her this huge shelf of every single one of hers of all of her books. And I was like, man, like 15 years ago, you'd have found anything you wanted there, and it was just one genre, and that's it.
That's
So
that's wild. Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I got it's what's popular. I have to feel like Book Talk has to do with that. Um,
yeah,
which I mean, it's not a bad thing necessarily. People like what they like, but also there's other people in the world who also like other genres. So maybe give that at
yeah,
least a little space on the shelf.
yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I would totally get it if it's like you take up half the stuff and try a bunch of other different, but it's literally nothing like that was it. So
That's
it
crazy.
definitely it blew my mind which I guess technically demographically you would look at there's probably way more women that's going to go into Target to buy anything. Obviously, I would assume most men are probably going to run into Walmart or wherever else
Right.
and grab it and leave. And maybe that's the point of it because like Walmart, I'd walked over to like their book section and it's gotten way better than it ever was 5 years ago.
Hmm.
And there's
Yeah.
just a bunch of different stuff. I mean, it
Yeah.
has that, of course, but I was
You got like your
impressed.
Dungeons and Dragons cookbook and like
Yeah,
yeah, I love their little section. And yeah, that's a good point though. If there's definitely going to be a lot different demographic of people going into one than the other. So I guess
yeah,
they're targeting that. But I just feel like when you push a genre, especially such a specific genre or a specific set of books or a specific author so hard,
mhm,
and then you try to introduce other genres or even indie authors to somebody's world and it's not anything like Sarah J. Maas, then it puts them off, and it's like I feel like it closes the mind a little bit when you're not offering, multiple worlds, multiple emotions, multiple feelings to people. You're just pushing this one thing. But then again, I've never read it, so I guess maybe it's got everything you need in there.
Yeah, yeah. Avid books, avid. Ugh, I can't even talk. What's going on? Avid book
Hello.
junkie. There we go. Oh yeah, I was definitely like I wasn't even thinking about it when I walked in and looked at it, and I guess in the back of my mind I was like, "There's just not much here for me that I'm interested in." And then he literally posted 2 days later, and I was like, "He is exactly right." So,
Yeah.
well, do you have anything else you want to say? Anything about your book? Where to get it? Anything like that?
It's on Amazon. The audiobook just came out, and I mean, in my opinion, it's the narration is incredible. I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with it. Um, unless anybody has any questions, I'm open to any kinds of questions. I don't really have anything else. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. I'll wait a couple minutes and see if anyone has anything,
Okay.
and we will
Yep.
see.
For anybody who hasn't been here the whole time, I am working on Dark Bloom's second book, hopefully coming out. We put it like a really soft date of October next year,
There we
but
go. Yeah.
yeah, who knows? I'm excited because I'm going to be working on it really hard this week because I'm on vacation, and I will have the time, the house to myself, the time to sit down and really focus and piece some things together and really get all the little funky parts worked out. So I'm really excited about that. But other than that, um, I'll be cleaning my house, I guess, maybe. But
Dark blood, more blood. There we go.
oh yeah, yeah, lots of blood. Yeah, I was talking about this the other day on Twitter. I was thinking about Dark Bloom and how I think that Kate has not including infected, but I think Kate has more kills than Nick actually by one. But in the sequel, Nick just like every time I go to sit down and write, he's killing somebody, and I just can't make him stop. And I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to Nick. He's going
Yeah,
through a lot right now. It's
yeah,
it's difficult. It's difficult times.
yeah. Well, I feel like he can definitely handle what's going. He's got the stuff.
He's certainly trying.
Yeah. So, well, all right. It has been a blast. So, what did he put?
Dark Nick. Yeah,
For Dark Nick.
yes.
He's going to the dark side for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, we got another one. Here we go. Dark Bloom is next on my list. Finishing up Infected, and it's all Dark Bloom.
Yeah, that book Infected sounds super good. I'm probably gonna have to pick that up.
I've not seen that. I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, he's been sharing stuff about it. And it does sound right up my alley.
Okay. When killing's in your blood. Yes, that is true. Well, all right. Well, thank you everybody for joining tonight, and thank you, Molly, for coming on the channel.
Of course. Thanks for having me, and thanks, friends, for being here.
Absolutely. Y'all have a good evening. See y'all later.
See ya.